If the reports I'm hearing are to be believed, this is better than the new Indiana Jones movie coming out next month.
This is not about who's the strongest. This is about not giving up. We have a word for that in Finland.
Sisu! So in my quest to watch as many non-woke movies as possible before I'm forced to suffer through The Little Mermaid in a few days, next one on the list was Sisu, and yeah, I'd heard a lot of good things about this movie. Well, I hear a lot of good things about non-woke movies always. Like, I still haven't seen Nefarious because, again, it's in a limited number of theaters. I think it's only in, like, 400 or 500 theaters, and it's not in one near me, so it'll probably be a while before I get to that one. It'll probably have to wait until rental before I'm able to see it. So, yeah. So I ended up seeing this one instead. And, again, the word of mouth is very good, even if it's not doing that great at the box office, because it has a lot of competition, and it's a really small movie. I don't even think this went to that many theaters either. But I had plenty of hype for this movie, and, yeah, it's pretty good. I do think from how, like, much it was hyped up, I'm not sure if it was that good. Like, people were saying, like, from what I was seeing, this was, like, A plus material, and it's not quite there, but it is still a pretty solid movie. The plot, you ask? It's a gold miner fighting Nazis. That's about it, really. I mean, there's kind of more to the story, but that's the basic plot of this. There's not much else to it. And honestly, simple plots can work. Unlike something like Colonials, which is the last thing I watched, it was a ridiculously simple story, but they tried to make it more complicated than it was because they wanted it to feel... They wanted it to be more complex, and instead they made it more complicated. There's a difference. So there's nothing complicated about this movie. And honestly, one thing I do like about this movie is that it's told through little dialogue. Most of the dialogue goes to the Nazis, actually. I don't think the main character, I can't remember his name, I don't think the main character has a single line of dialogue until the very end of the movie. I think he has the last line of dialogue, and that is it. And it's fine. We see everything, or we're told everything either by the villains or through his actions. Like, the Nazis kind of explain his backstory. Like, I think the backstory was that his family was, like, taken by, like, Russians, and he became, like, a one-man army, essentially, and has, like, 300 Russian kills under his belt. I believe that's what was said. Again, I watched this movie yesterday, so it's not... a lot of times when I do these reviews, it's, like, right after I watch the movie, but it's been, like, 20 hours, so I don't remember every single specific detail, but I believe that's what was said. But the high point of this movie is not going to be the story, it's going to be the action. It's been heavily described as John Wick. I don't remember what it was compared to, but I've been comparing it more to Indiana Jones than whatever the other one was being compared to, because it is like Indiana Jones. And I like Indiana Jones. Well, most of them anyway. I don't really like Temple of Doom, and Crystal Skull is And for what I've been hearing, the new one is more woke Lucasfilm garbage, like Star Wars sequel trilogy level garbage, so, yay. But I digress. The action sequences in this movie are a lot of fun, and I'm glad it's not like one after another, after another, after another, after another. There are moments where the main character is allowed to where the movie is allowed to just take a second to breathe. Like, the main character can, like, he'll, like, stop and camp out or something, or the Nazis, or it'll just be a shot of, like, the scene of, like, the Nazis, like, talking and everything. And one thing I do like with the villains of this, because Nazis are easy to make just one-dimensional villains, just punching bags, essentially. Kind of like stormtroopers, which makes sense. The stormtroopers were based on Nazi soldiers, but they do try to give them a bit more of a motivation, because it's not just, oh, they're going after this guy because he has a shitload of gold in his bag. they're going after him because apparently they're being called back to like base and everything, and they know because at this point they've pretty much lost the war. They know as soon as they go back they will be executed for their crimes. So they are going after him to get his gold so they have a way out. And it's an understandable motivation. They're just trying to live. I mean, they're Nazi soldiers, so we know that they don't really deserve that. But at least we understand their side of this conflict that's going on. And I kind of skim past the action sequences. There are a lot of fun. There are a few times where it goes into kind of Fast and the Furious level ridiculous, and there are a couple of stunts or choreographed moments that I kind of rolled my eyes at. But for the most part, it's done pretty well. And it's done very believable because this guy is a lot older than the younger Indiana Jones or John Wick. So they do it, most of the action is believable. Again, most of it. I think him getting onto the plane with nothing but a pickaxe was a little questionable. It's also questionable just how bad the Nazis' aim is. Again, I know the joke of stormtroopers having bad aim, but this is supposed to be like a dark and gritty action movie, less of the family-friendly fun that Star Wars is. I'm trying to think if there's too much to talk about. So I talked about the action. The acting is fine. The main guy is pretty good, despite him having pretty much no dialogue throughout the entire film, which actually helps because all of his emotions are told through his facial expressions and his actions and through the action sequences. Yeah, this is a movie that's told not through expositional dialogue through expositional dialogue, but through the actions of the characters, not just the main lead, but also the villains as well. And there's also this little side bit of them having like some female prisoners. And this does lead to kind of a stupid moment at the end of the movie where the main character, he's standing there with a pickaxe. That's the only weapon he has in his hand right now. Then two Nazi soldiers show up on a motorcycle, and one of them's in a sidecar with like a big machine gun. They stop, and they don't shoot him. He holds up his pickaxe, almost like he's holding up almost like it would be like them coming up to someone with a lightsaber or something. I don't know. He just holds it up like this, and they get off the motorcycle, drop their guns, and run away. Why? He is at your mercy. You have a big gun on this sidecar here, and machine guns slung over your shoulder, and you decide to get off the motorcycle, drop your guns, and run from a guy without a gun, with a pickaxe. I'm starting to wonder if I missed something in that scene, but I don't think I did. I don't know. And it wasn't like he had any body armor on or anything. He was just standing there. They could have easily just killed him right there. That is kind of a problem with this movie, is that there are plenty of times where the hero could have and should have been shot and killed, but just isn't for some reason. And also it had the big scene of the women coming up to one of the Nazi soldiers that's lying there. Reminded me a lot of the A-Force scene from Avengers Endgame, which was like the only bit of that movie that I didn't like, was that one forced all-female group shot. And I guess here it was fine because they were like the prisoners that were there, so it's like, it was more, I see it more as like the prisoners getting revenge and not this like female empowerment bullshit, but it did kind of lean into that a little bit. I felt like it might have been unintentional, but I don't know. The musical score is fine. Again, nothing to write home about, but it's serviceable enough for the film. I like how the movie is directed fairly well. I say that because there are a few times where the close-ups kind of get in the way of the choreography. It makes it hard to kind of see what's happening sometimes. But overall, it was perfectly, again, the directing, it was perfectly serviceable, and at times it looks pretty good. So, yeah, I guess that's really all I have to say about this movie, because there's not a ton to say. It's a pretty short movie. It's like an hour and a half on the dot, I think. Maybe it's like an hour 31, I don't know. But it's a short, fun action movie, and that's all I ask out of Hollywood nowadays is fun. Because Little Mermaid will not be fun, trust me. And from what I've been hearing, Indiana Jones will not be fun. And even from what I've been hearing, Transformers will not be fun. The Flash will not be fun. Elemental will not be fun. Movies like this are. And, oh man, I'm curious about that White Man Can't Jump movie, but we'll see. So yeah, that's all I got for Sisu. I'm gonna give this a B-, because it's a solid movie, and if they cleaned up some of the minor issues I have with this, it could have skyrocketed into the A range. So thank you all so much for watching, and next I have that White Men Can't Jump remake. And considering critics are hating it and audiences seem to be liking it, maybe it'll be pretty good. So that's all I got, and I'll see y'all then. Bye.